You won't believe what happened next. The baby's cry sliced through the airplane cabin like a fire alarm going off in a library. Sharp, relentless, impossible to ignore. Heads turned instantly, some with sympathy, most with irritation. It was the kind of wail that made even noise-canceling headphones useless. A few passengers exchanged knowing glances. Here we go, another flight ruined. Jonathan Whitmore pressed the heel of his palm to his forehead, bouncing his 9-month-old daughter against his chest. Sweat clung to his neck, and his upgraded seat suddenly felt like a trap. Ava, red-faced and kicking, screamed loud enough to shake the tray table. Her bottle was untouched. Her blanket had long since hit the floor. The stuffed giraffe she'd loved just yesterday now flung down the aisle like it had betrayed her. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Jonathan was used to control. He'd built empires from apps, turned startups into 7-figure exits, first-class seats, assistants, luxury hotels. He lived a life where problems got solved before he even noticed them. But now, none of that mattered. On this flight from Los Angeles to Pittsburgh with no nanny, no wife, just him and his daughter, Jonathan had never felt so helpless. He rocked her gently, whispering, "Shh, Daddy's here. It's okay," his voice cracking with each syllable. Some passengers offered tight smiles, but more rolled their eyes or sighed loudly. A man 2 rows up slammed his laptop shut with theatrical annoyance. A woman pulled her sweater over her head, like it was a parachute out of the chaos. A teenager jammed his earbuds in deeper, mouthing curses to his friend. Jonathan felt each stare like a pin in his back. He tried everything. The pacifier, the bottle, that lullaby his wife sang. Nothing worked. Ava screamed like the plane was on fire. The flight attendants passed by with sympathetic but tired eyes. One even offered a nervous, "Anything I can get for you, sir?" But her tone suggested she hoped he'd figure it out himself. Jonathan whispered, almost to himself, "She's teething. Maybe it's her ears. I don't know." Another passenger muttered, "If he can afford that seat, he can afford a nanny." Jonathan heard it, loud and clear. His ears burned. His daughter sobbed harder. Somewhere in the chaos, Jonathan's eyes met a boy's a few rows back, maybe 16. He wore a plain shirt, scuffed sneakers, and a backpack tucked neatly under his seat. He wasn't glaring. He wasn't annoyed. He was watching. And in his eyes, concern. That boy's name was Malik Turner, and he was on his first flight ever. Malik had boarded in Stockton, California, heading to Pittsburgh for a summer youth leadership program. No parents, no fancy clothes, just a dream his mom and grandma had scraped together to make happen. He'd never flown before. Every bump made his heart race. But it wasn't the turbulence that got to him. It was the crying. Because that sound, it reminded him of home, of his baby cousin who cried just like that when her teeth came in, of his grandma who would sing gospel hymns in the kitchen, voice steady as a heartbeat, of the comfort that didn't come from solving a problem but from simply being there. Malik leaned into the aisle, watching the father bounce the baby, eyes frantic, shoulders slumped. He saw something in that man he recognized all too well, exhaustion and fear. He'd seen it in his mom's face when rent was late and work had drained the life out of her. It was the look of someone trying to hold everything together while it all slipped through their fingers. The cabin buzzed with complaints. One man groaned, "This is out of hand." Another muttered, "That baby needs to be quiet." Jonathan stood to walk Ava up and down the aisle, but it didn't help. She cried harder, writhing in his arms. Malik's heart pounded. His hands trembled on the armrests, Don't, he told himself. It's not your business. Stay quiet. You're just a kid. But his grandma's voice echoed in his head. Help if you can. That's what makes you a man. And then, without thinking, Malik stood. Sir? His voice cracked. Jonathan froze, turning to look at him, eyes tired, surprised. I think I can help. Sometimes when my cousin cries, I sing to her. I could try. Only if you're okay with it. The cabin went silent. Jonathan blinked, stunned. A few people chuckled nervously. Others stared. Malik stood his ground. You want to hold her? Jonathan asked, his voice cautious. Only if you trust me, sir. I think I can calm her. Whispers rippled. Is he serious? One woman said. A man scoffed. This is ridiculous. Jonathan looked at Malik's steady hands, his calm eyes. He felt a strange flicker of hope. What's your name? Malik Turner. Jonathan crouched, bouncing Ava one last time, then slowly handed her over. Gasps followed. The flight attendant hovered. Malik took Ava gently. She flailed, wailed louder, her face scrunched in fury. But Malik didn't flinch. He adjusted her softly, cradling her, like his cousin, back home. And then he began to hum. It wasn't a song you'd know. No lyrics, just a low, slow melody. Something his grandma used to sing when the world felt too loud. At first, nothing happened. Then Ava's cries wavered. Her fists unclenched. Her body softened. Passengers leaned in. A man lowered his headphones. A woman held her breath. And then, silence. Ava sighed, blinked up at Malik, and closed her eyes. Jonathan stared in disbelief. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Tears gathered in his eyes. She's asleep. Malik nodded gently. Just needed a song. That's all. The cabin buzzed, this time not with complaints, but awe. How did he do that? Someone whispered. That boy just saved the whole flight, another muttered. The businessman up front turned slowly, his face softening. The woman in the scarf, silent. Jonathan sat across from Malik, watching Ava breathe. She looked peaceful. He looked wrecked. I tried everything, Jonathan said, voice barely above a whisper. You did what I couldn't. It's just a song, Malik replied. My grandma taught me. She said it ain't about the melody. It's about the heart. Jonathan let out a laugh, half choked with emotion. You have no idea what you just gave me. Malik shrugged. Glad she's okay. The flight attendant passed again, whispering, That was remarkable. Maybe she should stay with him a bit longer. Jonathan nodded, eyes still locked on Ava. Malik rocked her gently, humming again, the same lullaby, threading the calm back into the cabin. Jonathan studied him. You're flying alone? Yeah, first time. Going to a youth program, got a scholarship. That's impressive. My mum and grandma saved up for months. I almost didn't come, but they made sure I did. Jonathan leaned back, taking it all in. He'd met CEOs, tycoons, founders. But he'd never seen someone handle pressure like this. You know, Jonathan said softly, you've got more composure than half the people I work with. Malik looked down, embarrassed. Just tried to help, that's all. Jonathan nodded. Sometimes that's everything. The captain's voice broke in, announcing their descent. Seatbelts clicked. Trays closed. Ava stirred but stayed quiet. Jonathan reached for her. Malik hesitated, then gently passed her back. Her fingers clung to his shirt until the last second. Jonathan cradled her carefully. I don't know how to thank you. You gave me something money couldn't buy. Malik looked away, trying not to cry. You don't have to. Jonathan leaned in. You remind me what matters. Not deals, not dollars, but heart. From nearby rows, People nodded. Even the businessman gave Malik a small thumbs up. As the plane touched down, Jonathan asked, "Do you have a phone? Let me give you my number. Maybe I can help with that program." Malik pulled out a scratched old phone. Jonathan typed his contact in without blinking. "Call me," he said. "Not because you helped me, because I believe in what you can do." As passengers stood, grabbing bags, there was no frustration now. Only quiet admiration. One boy, with nothing but a song, had calmed a storm at 30,000 feet. Jonathan stood, Ava sleeping in his arms. "You changed this flight, Malik. You changed me. Never forget that." Malik smiled, his grandma's voice in his heart. Sometimes all it takes is a song. They parted at the gate, one to a boardroom, the other to a summer program. Two lives, worlds apart, connected by compassion. And maybe that's the real lesson. Kindness doesn't care about wealth or status. It just needs a moment and the courage to act. So ask yourself this: who can you help today, even in the smallest way? Because you never know whose storm you might calm with a simple act of humanity.